Hello, everyone. Up next, we got an exciting conversation. I'm Cole Bartlett from Unbox the Universe, and at Unbox, we create programmable assets, identities, and transactions. Unbox provides you with the tools to create smart tokens that connect and combine the physical and digital world. For our panel, have smart tokens as an evolution of smart contracts. We'll have Sandro Knöpfel, the Global Business Development Lead at the Cardano Foundation, and Joeri Torfs, the CTO of Unbox. Let's give it up for them.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for actually attending. It's 3 p.m. on Saturday. It was an extensive and exhausting, as well in a positive way, conference so far. So a lot of conversations, exciting topics, workshops, panels, and keynotes to attend. So I'm glad to see that you all showed up here actually to listen as well to us. And Joeri, welcome.
Thank
glad
you.
to have you here. May I ask you quickly about a short introduction to actually the listeners about yourself? What brought you into this industry? More likely, what brought you to Unbox? And we are here at the blockchain conference. So what is Unbox and blockchain? How does this get together?
Okay, so those are a bunch of questions. So let's start with the beginning. So what brought me to Unbox? It's actually my connection with the founder and CEO, Eric, and the fact that I had written a book right before about how to evolve society and how to do things in a different way. And we found each other, I think, at that time to build something, a piece of infrastructure that was still missing. And that brought me to Unbox. He wanted to make an impact. I wanted to make an impact. And so that's how we ended up doing that together. And as far as the ecosystem is concerned, I've been a strong believer in decentralization for a long time. I've been in the industry much longer than I like to admit, maybe. And Cardano is an amazing ecosystem. I saw that from the very start. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be part of the journey. And so for me, there was no second option. It was a first choice to go for it.
That's obviously great to hear and very much appreciated. There are a lot of actually special aspects when you look into different layer ones and what makes especially then Cardano unique. And I'm glad that you also saw the power and the special architecture. You mentioned impact before and infrastructure. Can you tell a bit more when you say about the infrastructure as of today's world? You know that the topic of today is as well actually smart contracts and evolution, smart tokens and evolution of smart contracts. What does that mean, and what does infrastructure and smart tokens? What is the story here?
Okay, let me try to give you the short version or the easy version. I think the idea in which our ecosystem started with the UTXO and Bitcoin and the color coins at that time was a very strong concept because you had the idea of ownership there, right? So you had like the native asset, the thing that was like not physical, but as good as the digital version of the physical thing. Like the disadvantage of that entire thing was, like you couldn't do much with it except spend it and own it, and that was obviously a limitation. And so we had like the phase of the Ethereums, where EVM coming up and doing smart contracts, and all of a sudden you were able to express much more, to do whatever you wanted. But to me, it was a shortcut because what you lost was the native asset part of the things. All of a sudden, your possession was actually the result of something that was computed in a decentralized way. So but it's kind of fine, but we missed something. And so that never really got off on that, if you will. So I followed it up, and I did some small things in that ecosystem as well, but nothing that really got me passionate. And when I saw Cardano, which came back to like the original idea of having smart assets, or assets, at least native tokens, on chain, but with a programmability on top of that. Well, that was it for me, because I think you need both. You need to have the base primitive of a native token on chain, and you need to have the possibility to express whatever is there. And so for me, the evolution that we were talking about is you start with, what I would call a dumb token, which is, the thing that, you just own it and you spend it. And then you go to smart contracts, but it's not a token anymore. It's, it's a smart contract. And I know like we can go all philosophical on that, but that's my view on it. And then you go to a smarter token. So one that is still a native asset, that is still exists on chain, but that you get the possibility to steer because there is an infrastructure around, which is Plutus for us. So that allows us to create something that is steerable and that makes that token smarter, if you will, to better serve cases that are in the world.
Wow. So it's like we see an evolution, but then rethink, go a step back, and rethink where are we coming from. So it's this philosophy, it's the core idea of the native asset, of the ownership, and how can we actually create something which evolved then with Ethereum as an example, right? Smart contracts, but make it better and going to the core philosophy. Beautiful set, definitely. Now, how would I imagine now a smart contract to interact in a society or even in an economy? Do you have some examples or concrete ideas how this could look like in the real world?
Yeah, well, absolutely. So I think this is also one of the specificities of Unbox, is that we started with a very outward-facing company. So we did a bunch of use cases. We started doing the COVID stimulus distribution for the city of Antwerp. We did opioid contingency management in the state of Indiana, in Gary. We did things with refugees we did for UNRWA in Gaza. Well, like I'll have to talk to my chief product officer, James, who will know way more about what all the wonderful things that we've done. But I think the essence is you needed to go out there in the world, right? And you needed to put those cases out. And I think the technology needs to follow that. It's not, to me, it's not about doing, decentralization and Web3 for the sake of it. It's about how do we bring this tech to do something decent with it. And I couldn't go to cases such as, for example, for UNRWA or for the opioid contingency management with a solution that would have those people remember their 24-word password and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But I still wanted the decentralization, the edge cryptography. I still wanted the very cool and the important aspects of blockchain, but I didn't want the complexity. And I think the combination of both has always been a very interesting, at least an area of friction, but when there's friction, there's energy, yeah? So that's good.
Definitely. And if I understood correctly, you mentioned at beginning COVID, you said, right? So there is that's not that far away, changed a lot in the way we interact with each other, the whole remote working space, not only when we speak about decentralization, everything changed a bit in the way we interact with each other. What is now the smart token in this example, or how can a smart token help? And you think on COVID, I think we are speaking as well about financial instruments, right? And I'm from Switzerland, and I know as an example, we had all these COVID credits which have been misused, and actually people applied. It was extended, or the process was actually speeded up to give people access to money, and there was a lot of misuse of these funds.
Yeah, well, I think it's not only there is a bunch of misuse, not only with the COVID distribution, but in general with everything that is grants and distribution of money in general. And it's not always ill-intended, if you will. So sometimes it's just you have slippage, you have things that disappear, you have misallocation, so it's not always fraud, but the thing is it's not efficient. And that's a reality. And specifically for the COVID case, we had the city of Antwerp wanting to distribute a certain amount of money, but they wanted that money to be spent only on initiatives to support the local economy. So they wanted only mom and pop stores. They didn't want multinationals. They wanted less than a certain amount of employees. The smaller stores in the city center, to make sure that those could survive the crisis. And so they needed a way to distribute that COVID stimulus in a way that for them, they got the certainty that it was spent only for what it was intended to be spent, and there was let's say an impossibility to do misallocation or abuse. In a sense, you could think of this as pre-audited money. So normally when you distribute something, you distribute it and then you hire very expensive consultants to check if everything got well. So this is pre-funded and post-audited. What we did was post-audited and pre-audited and post-funded.
So just to make this clear, you're speaking about Antwerp. So we have a city and you collaborated with them, you helped them actually to make this process more efficient, more secure, and actually support the local economy. So this is not a theory, this is a real use case, which actually demonstrated the power of blockchain and how the technology can help.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were so happy with the solution that we're still working with them on other initiatives. We're doing their, I think their employee benefits are distributed that way. We have their tourism pass that they distribute in this way. We do a bunch of initiatives with them still.
So it's amazing. We always speak about those use cases, and now we hear that they are out there. They're being applied. I think it's a big hand towards Unbox, what they achieved. This is really, really great. So congratulations to that. I must say, super impressed.
Thank you.
But then we speak as well a bit about these core fundamentals when you said going back to actually native assets, having actually the ownership. Now, what you're saying here as well, obviously it's useful to have actually the opportunity to program a token that it can only be spent locally. Obviously, you need to have actually the merchants and everyone to play along, right? But it also goes a bit into, if we over-accelerate a bit, to the CBDC models, right? So do we want to have someone controlling actually the tokens? What is your thought on that?
I think that's a very good question. And I think that's a very difficult one to answer. To me, in the first place, we're a technology company. So for us, we're making tools, we're building tools to give people a choice, to give people hope, to give people a possibility to choose how they want to deal with their community, how they want to organize themselves. And yes, the technology can be used to do social credit systems, which I'm not very fan of, if you will, to put it mildly, if you allow me to say that way. But I think it would be a shame not to invent it just because it can be misused. I think there is also, and we've proven that, there's also a bunch of very good use cases that come out of that. And so at some point, I think choice is the only thing that we can provide. And I think this is kind of what we are providing as an industry as well. So everything that you do can be misused for doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing, but it also has a good side. And I think that's kind of what I want to bring.
And it's interesting because you mentioned at the beginning infrastructure, and as you said, you're a technology company. So suddenly I can choose.
Enjoying the event? Fire up that wallet and delegate your ADA to Rare Stake Pool. For over 3 years, Rare has been committed to providing high-quality staking services. And we're now Chang Hard Fork ready. Thank you for your support.
With whom I work or how I actually work. So if I not agree, if I understand you correct, in this very example, when you go back to this Antwerpen example, it's like, if I do not agree with the terms, how I can actually spend the smart token, I can actually look for another funding. So suddenly I could go and seek another source. So it opens actually as well a new way that we can say those are the terms for a loan, like we have in the old world, but in a much smarter way, and give actually everyone the opportunity to participate and take a decision what works best. That's amazing. That's exciting.
That's kind of it, and I think choice is the most important here. And and we have a saying which doesn't translate at all into English. That in Dutch it goes wie betaalt bepaalt, and that kind of means that the one who pays decides, and so that's kind of the ethos there. If you want to get money from the government for a certain way, and then we can go into a philosophical discussion about the fact that is our tax money and we should be freer in that. So, but we're gonna, it's a very controversial thing, and I think again for me we're looking at this from a technological perspective, and with smart tokens you can do things in a community, a very small community. You can organize yourself, or you can have bigger players such as cities or governments or NGOs that do their thing in their way. And I think like everyone can try to contribute to a better environment, and giving people that opportunity, I think, is what we wanted to deliver.
And you also mentioned Gaza. So there are a lot of actually crises happening around the globe. There are people actually in need of help and access to financial services, to products. How do you see that a smart token can help in these areas, in these countries, when you speak about refugees as well, or these displaced people?
I think every use case is unique, but I think the reason why we turn to decentralized blockchain systems is because you get the anonymity there. You get or at least the pseudo anonymity in our context, but you get a way to not divulge information about what you do, why you do it, where you do it. And that was a very important point for the United Nations as well, right? So because they couldn't have worked with us if we had asked them to onboard people with their first name and last name or an email address or whatever. So you had to be able to onboard them. And fortunately, we can onboard people. We can transact in a way that is transparent. You just download the app and you start working. You have your wallet, if you will, and you can receive your tokens. You can go spend them, or you can earn them, because it's also in some cases it's conditional. There it was to start up a recycling economy. That was what we were doing there.
Okay, that's exciting. And you mentioned anonymity, so identity plays an important role in here as well, right? So when we think about the identity, and you said someone maybe just has an email address and a name and nothing else attached to it, how do you see this identity topic? Is it a single identity someone carries, or what is the development there when we speak about how you embed it in smart tokens?
Well, I think independent. Well, first of all, smart tokens enable a soul-bound kind of identity, if you will. But I think more important is that it allows us to model something that we are more used to in the physical world, right? So today we go to our sports club, we go to our government instance. We do not need to show the same amount of information wherever we go. And so that kind of choice, it's not about having one identity, it's about the choice to have as many as you need to, build the presence. The problem with the systems that we had today is that everything that you build in your digital identity is kind of based on what you say that you do. So it's mostly fake, right? So you invent an email address, you invent yourself a profile, and all of a sudden you're some king in some country. Right, so there's nothing preventing you from doing that. Whereas if you go to your sports club and nobody knows you and you're an asshole, then 2 weeks later nobody will still know you, right? So you'll still be on your own. But if you're a nice guy and you're cool and you're friendly and you help people out, then you build up your identity there. But it's an identity that's not based on your government identity. It's not an identity based on your driver's license. It's an identity based on the things you do in that environment. And I think that is the most important thing. But in order to be able to achieve that, you have to make sure that identity cannot be sold, right? So, because otherwise you'll have people building identities for you, and that will defeat the purpose. So again, it's identity without identification, right? Or identification without identity. It's like building up a truly decentralized way of being somewhere for a specific purpose without giving away information that is personal and that cannot be taken back.
Wow. So it also goes back to this choice, as you said. It's all about choice. So I can actually, at the end of the day, decide for myself what time of terms I agree to and what identity is being used. Is it my CF identity I have here today? Is it tomorrow my private identity, or is it an alias? So this is really depends on actually where you are and how you behave. So this is something which I think is for all of us. It's important. It's one thing is the ownership. So what is a digital asset? How can you own it? And then what can you do with it? But take the decision with whom you interact and on what terms. I think this is the crucial element, because we need these terms we all agree on to find consensus.
Well, for just to give you an example, we in Antwerp also we ran a project. Well, that was broader than Antwerp. It was in Belgium in general, where people were picking up pieces of litter. We picked up like 2 million pieces of litter in total, and so just to tie that back to the identity case, so if you are someone that is conscious about the environment and that does something for your community, you build up an identity by doing the act. It's not you saying that you're very conscious and and helping people and always shiny, but it's you doing the thing, right? So, and that builds up a true identity that can be then used maybe to get rewards in some stores that want to promote people that do something for their community. And so that's the way in which you do not become who you say you are, or you become who you are or what you do.
So this is also when we speak about the rewards, it's kind of a loyalty, right? So we speak about loyalty programs, you suddenly start to change the whole economy behind that and how it cross interacts between different economies and actually actions taken. So 2 million, you said,
pieces of litter, yeah.
Pieces of waste.
Yeah, that people pick up on the street, take a picture, and throw up correctly.
Congrats on that. That's another amazing number. So it helps the environment. The incentive is there with your own token, right? So it's the Ucoin. Actually, people got rewarded with.
Well, the Ucoin is actually the name of the entity in the protocol, but whoever creates their community token on top of that, give the name that they want to give it. So we do not dictate anything about that. So that's that's just you name the asset the way you want to name it that best fit the purpose of your community action.
This is amazing. And does it also help to actually collect certain metrics when we say about collecting waste, right? Does it help to give some geodata to create accountability towards those which are responsible for the waste at the end of the day? Is there the smart interaction of the technology something helpful, and why is it helpful in a decentralized way rather than as we do it today when we just measure a little square meter and then have it on a centralized database?
Well, obviously, when you crowdsource those kinds of things, you get real-time information about what happens in an unalterable way, and so that obviously opens a bunch of use cases. And again, this is not something that we absolutely as a company want to bring, and this is something we started with because we saw the possibility of that of what we were creating, but we wanted to bring that a step further. And this is not something that we cannot be specialists in waste management and the specialists in contingency management and the specialists in community currency. We can be specialists in bringing infrastructure to a bunch of builders that have their own community, their own systems, and the idea started there. Like, instead of trying to be the company that brings all those cases, why not create infrastructure that enables other companies to bring that?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's really this enabling these opportunities, right? So if I just think about this, so if I do know that I have a certain area in the city where there is a lot of cans from a beverage company laying around, so you can go actually to government and say, maybe there is just a bin missing, but maybe we can go back to actually produce and we can speak about actually the impact of the product, right? What would you need to do to make it composable and so on? So this is truly amazing. I would also like to open a bit the room for questions. Does anyone has a question at this very moment based on what you have heard about what smart tokens are and how it creates an impact when you speak about ownership, but also having actually the choice? Any questions in the room? No questions, so you explained it very well.
Very well.
What is it for you when so you said all the beautiful things actually amongst a lot of other things you do with Unbox, but what you did so far. So now blockchain, maybe just to go back to this quickly, have you started initially to actually start on blockchain, and are your partners you're working with all blockchain natives, or where is this story coming from when we speak about Web 2, Web 3 conversion?
I think the world lives in Web 2, so you need to, whatever piece of infrastructure you build, you need to make sure that it's enabled there. But I think the future is in Web 3 because we need those decentralization primitives, and we need to be able to do that in that way. So I think for us it's always been about bridging both, which is also why we brought our own wallet solution, which is completely customizable, and you can get the actions in there, so you can actually get people to do something in order to get something, if you will. So it's like, let's say, a purpose wallet. We have our studio where people can, where initially we designed our ecosystems ourselves because that's how we started. But with the initiative, we announced that yesterday or 2 days ago that we were open sourcing our protocol. So we are also committed to bring that back to the community so that people can actually build on top of that. We will bring the studio version that we had to allow people to like design their own ecosystems, design their microenvironments, push it to their front end in a pretty easy way. So this is for me a way to unlock real world use cases in the way that we've done it, but then all over the world and without the complexities that we have today to develop something on chain. So you still do something on chain, you still do something decentralized, but it becomes easier and quicker to do it.
Wow. So congrats on the open source. I think that's also another testament towards your actually values when you speak about philosophy, where we are coming from, what were the initial thoughts and ideas, and now bringing them together and actually offering an enterprise-grade technology stack which actually enables infrastructure applications. That's truly amazing. Thank you so much for the great contribution. Also to actually let the community actually participate, contribute. I think this is what we are all here for, and that's why we came to Las Vegas, to the Caesars Palace, and actually discuss together, learn how we can work, use synergies. Joeri, thank you so much. It was amazing to hear, and congratulations to all what you have achieved with Unbox and to the journey ahead of yours. It's truly amazing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I would say, guys, go build shit.
Thank you.
Rare Evo 2025 tickets are on sale now. Save big. General admission passes are discounted to $250, and VIP passes are only $800. Join us August 7th through 9th, 2025 at Caesars Palace, Las Vegas. Hurry, only 30 days left to save. Visit rareevo.io and buy your tickets now.